Ahoy! Today we're talking about the data mining for the next two guards after Gilgamesh, as well as a little bit about the upcoming guard reworks and the next Odyssey. As always, keep in mind that this is data mining from SMITE and it's always subject to change, so don't take anything as set in stone. So the Odyssey will be Kingdom of Babylon, and I will not go through all the missions here, but some of these will be relevant a little bit later, because they actually have some information related to upcoming gods, at least potentially. As with previous Odysseys, the missions will be split into different territories, and that's how we get this information. When it comes to the reworks, we have Janus version 2, which I'm assuming is what already happened. I don't think this is something new at this point anymore. Persephone version 2 and Bastet version 3. What's interesting for Persephone is that now there is a little bit more information about the parts that are being looked at. There's a note for ability 2, where it just states ground target, and ability 3 with area of effect device and explosive hit. So far, these are things that description-wise could easily fit the current versions of these abilities. So in itself, it doesn't actually tell us anything that will be changed, but it does indicate that ability 2 and 3 are the ones that are being looked at for Persephone, which is not all too surprising. Though I wouldn't be surprised if beyond that the ultimate is being looked at as well. Next, we have goddess number 115, Morgan Le Fay. Now when it comes to her kit, what we already knew from past data mining is that she is somehow a mage with magical damage, but also melee and also some sort of magic shot projectile. Because of information about the next god that we'll get to a little bit later, I will say that it seems even less likely that she works like a traditional mage now. It could, for example, be that she works closer to a guardian. It could be that she plays like a magical assassin, which would possibly fit her theme. Or technically, she could also be a magical hunter, which I still think is unlikely based on the ability so far. Or something completely new that just works differently from everything we've seen so far. Beyond that, her kit offers area damage and medium crowd control. There's also mention of a dragon, which somehow works as a deployable for one of her abilities. And she also has a throne, but that's potentially just something for a lobby or windscreen. Unless she's actually floating about on a throne and that's why she has these melee attacks. That would be very interesting as well. There's some information that cannot be linked to any skill, including the fact that she has this magic shot projectile. She also has marks of some kind. She has an Arthur preview, a dragon preview, and a sword effects. So it seems like King Arthur does somehow play a role in her kit as well. Her passive still doesn't have any information at all. And for her basic attack, there is a note that is a hand projectile. So again, this doesn't quite match the melee aspect, and that makes it kind of confusing. Her first ability doesn't have any new information. It's a deployable, there's a warm-up time and gets an explosion of a sigil. There's a sword that has a radius of 12.5, and this ability is split into 3 A, B, and C. So this is probably where this sword FX preview comes in, and maybe the Arthur preview as well. And since it's deployable, it might also be connected to the dragon. The second ability also has a note deployable, so it could also match the dragon. It also comes with a deploy mesh, and now there's a new note stating that it has a projectile, or is a projectile. The third ability has a debuff, and each basic attack extends the duration of that debuff by 1 second. This is the only thing where I'm thinking, okay, this kind of sounds like magical ADC. It works with a passive, and also has a buff with an area of effects. There's also a new note stating projectile sides, and Ferreira speculates that maybe these are some projectiles that shoot to the sides. When it comes to the ultimate, we already had a decent amount of information beforehand. The ultimate works as a projectile shot with up to 3 shots during 6 seconds of time. After that 6 seconds, the player will be kicked out of the ability. The projectile also has 5 stages when it increases in size from 1.5 to 3.5 scale. It's based on marks, with each step increasing from 1 to 5 marks, probably from the passive. It has a max ammo of 3, a max duration of 6, and the possible scales are 1.5, 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, and 3.5. And then it's marks 1 to 3.5. Now, in addition to that, this also has a lifesteal buff. In all honesty, the more I learn about the kit, the more confusing it gets to me, so I really have no idea where this is going at this point. Maybe she is an ADC after all with marking stuff with abilities, but there doesn't seem to be any toggle that would activate her ranged attack, so I don't really know how that will work. We also know from a trailer that she has something to do with illusions or summons or something that we don't really see reflected in her kit at all. And so I'm just kind of at a loss for what she will be, and I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of it. Maybe we'll get some more clarity with the next patch. But when it comes to the other god, or rather gods, we actually have a fair bit of information, because we even have some info for the god after that. So when it comes to deity number 116, there was a mention in the past data mining about oceans, but that doesn't actually seem to be connected to this god at all, since there is a new soul skin with an ocean theme or some mentions of an ocean, so this information was probably for that god. And god number 116 is still named exactly that in the files. However, with the new Odyssey, there is a mention of the Strait of Messina, and that is one of the territories in the Odyssey here, which is the area where Scylla and Charybdis reside. So this makes Charybdis a lot more likely, because this would be a very logical teaser for her here. The next part explains why I think that Morgan Le Fay will not be a traditional mage, and that's because the information that we have about Charybdis is that she will be a magical mage with area damage. So that sounds much more like a traditional mage kit, and I'm not entirely surprised here, because I think most other roles would have been somewhat weird for something that is essentially just a whirlpool with teeth. I know that some people were speculating that this could be a hunter somehow, or an assassin, and I can see maybe an assassin working as well, but I do think that a mage seems to be the more obvious choice for this water-based kit that she'll likely have. When it comes to her passive, we don't have any information yet, but we know that her basic attacks will be projectile basic attacks, as for a traditional mage would be expected. Her first ability is a projectile attack, and it has stages. Nothing beyond that is known, so this could be really anything. We don't have any information about her second ability yet, and about her third ability we only know that it is deployable. We have a little bit more information when it comes to ultimate. It uses passive stacks, only that unfortunately we don't know what the passive is yet. It also comes with different stages, and it also is some kind of shooting. I would assume that we'll see at least one, if not more, water projectiles in here. Now what's really interesting is that we have some potential information for the god after that, deity number 117. You may remember that initially the speculation went towards Cliodhna or Cailleach. And what is now in the game files, or in the upcoming Odyssey, is a mention of Blarney Castle. The story behind Blarney Castle is that Cormac was rebuilding this castle, and then he needed some legal help, but he was not very skilled in any legal field, and he asked Cliodhna for help, and Cliodhna told him to kiss the first stone he comes across in the morning. He did that, was suddenly a very talented speaker, and knew his legal lingo and won his court case, and subsequently built this stone, the Blarney stone, into the Blarney Castle. So the fact that this castle is mentioned here makes it a fair bit more likely that this deity might be Cliodhna. And I think this is interesting because this is probably the hardest one to find out of the ones that we have listed, and I like that not all of them are so clear-cut this time, and there's actually some speculation between two options here, which could end up being the god. If you're interested in further speculation about the gods of this season, then I will link the video right here, which you can check out, where Snufflebox made a detailed list of what he thinks the next god might be. With that, thank you very much for watching. Click like and subscribe, or